Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Cinnafilm's webinar Wednesday. My name is Curtis Staples. I'm Cinnafilm's Director of Customer Success. Today, we're going to be talking about Wormhole that together with Skywalker Sound Tools provides the highest quality retiming conversions that most people have seen. We're going to dig into what it can do, how it does it, and the types of problems and issues that you can solve with it. Wormhole and Skywalker Sound Tools are available in PixelStrings, which is Cinnafilm's suite of tools that are available for on-prem, but most profoundly available in the cloud. And I say profoundly because the power of these tools is something that is typically not expected to be found in a cloud application. And you'll get a taste of that today if this is a new introduction for you to PixelStrings in general. With me today are Fausto Sanchez, who is with Performance Post in Los Angeles, Scott Levine, who is representing Skywalker Sound, and Ernie Sanchez, no relation to Fausto as far as I know, who's Cinnafilm's COO. So gentlemen, let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be seeing and discussing today. I'm going to go to you first, Fausto. Just a quick introduction. Fausto's facility recently celebrated its 40th anniversary, which is quite a big deal if you manage to keep your facility running and successful for 40 years in the hotbed of LA. And then to make it even a little bit more special, Fausto was telling me he's never had a salesman or sales department, which means he's been very successful in turning all of his customers into his sales force. So Fausto, maybe talk a little bit about, introduce us to your take on retiming and
Sure.
The importance of certain issues around that topic.
Sure. Well, good morning or afternoon or evening, wherever you guys might find yourselves today. I want to thank all of you guys for joining us. As the team's already said, I want to specifically thank Curtis and Ernie and the entire Cinnafilm team for the invitation to join you guys today. I was invited today to this webinar to share with you guys a little bit about our experience with retiming. We've been doing it for quite some time for quite a few clients, and specifically retiming with the Wormhole product. I want to tease you with some of the things that I want to share a little later today with retiming, the why and how you would use it, retiming, where we have started, where we are today, what works and what doesn't work, and because there's both sides of all of that, and I want to be candid with that as you guys get into this. And so I look forward to sharing all that experience with you guys. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Fausto. Scott, your take on all of the things we're discussing today go deeper than just pictures, so it'll be really good to get your input. What are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, Curtis, for having me on to participate today. At Skywalker Sound, we feel as distribution's gone global really, really fast in new ways. There's so many distribution targets for a single piece of content. This means processing a track many, many, many times. So we believe the concept of secondary market isn't really relevant anymore and should really go away. Every target market should receive the highest quality track that we can possibly make. So we're excited to be working with Cinnafilm on the PixelStrings platform to bring a super high quality retiming solution that can hit intended run times without introducing any sonic or
Now, I have lost Scott. I don't know if everyone else has.
I think he's back. There he is. He is back.
That's all I had to say.
Okay. Thank you. Ernie, over to you.
Oh yeah. Well, Curtis, thanks for being the host with the most on this. The one thing that you see this on the screen, you have the PixelStrings interface. PixelStrings just keeps growing as far as capabilities and features on a monthly basis. I mean, you could go into PixelStrings today, and a month from now, it's going to be 3 revs later. And one of the things that we really, really like about the cloud platform that you mentioned, Curtis, about things tools being accessible in the cloud. Just don't think about the caliber of tool being there. We keep pushing the envelope, and we can reach our entire cloud user base immediately with new features. And so one of the really cool things you'll see in this Wormhole interface are vast improvements over what we had before on the Rating Grid platform. And the cool thing about it is that it's almost instantaneous. As soon as we test it out and prove it, we put it up there, it's available for everybody to use. And it's not a tedious thing where we have to go install at every single one of our client locations to say, hey, okay, here's the new version, and it's already up there. And the downtime to our clients is minimal because we can push it out there. So the one thing that I just wanted to resonate on just for a bit is that we're putting these incredibly high power, high quality tools in the cloud, available by the drink. And as we make more and more advancements in there, it's always up to date. So it's really, really exciting for us because I've heard some folks say if you don't embrace the cloud, you're dead. And
Ernie, I've never found the drink tab in our app, Ernie. So I've obviously been missing something. I must not have special privileges.
I don't think you're old enough.
Oh, okay. Ernie? One thing I neglected to mention to everybody: we're going to pop in some Q&A along the way, so people don't have to sit on their burning questions to the end. So there's a question area in your interface. Feel free to pop questions in there relating to the topic at hand during the presentations. And when we come to the opportunities for those, we'll grab a few of those, and then any that we don't get to, we'll jump on those at the end of the presentation before we get you out at the end of the hour. Thanks a lot. So Ernie, I'll leave it to you to do a quick overview of PixelStrings, and then dive into Wormhole.
Sure, I'll be happy to do that. So those of you that haven't spent any time in PixelStrings, www.pixelstrings.com, there'll be a button up in the upper corner for you to sign up for an account. It doesn't cost anything to sign up for accounts. It's free. And of course, all the jobs that you pay for are based, what I was saying, by the drink. Basically, if you pour yourself a liter, you're going to pay for a liter. If you pour yourself an ounce, you're going to pay for an ounce. It's by the run minute. So if you have a 5-minute job, it's going to your total cost is going to be based on what that run length is of the file. The interface, as you get into it, when you create your account, you'll have some options for subscriptions. Subscriptions give you more storage, give you access to some additional features that aren't in the basic account, and gives you access to quicker, faster tech support, that type of thing. We always try to treat all of our customers the same, but I know those that are subscribing and are doing a lot more footage, they will get the premium level support. And those, it also gets you a discount. So depending on the level of subscription you go with, will increase your discount per job. We have team accounts, enterprise accounts, so that way teams can share credits and they can share workflows. We try to make this as flexible to the users as possible based on their workflow needs and volumes. When you get into the interface, there's going to be 3 main tabs. You have assets, workflows, and jobs. It's very self-explanatory. Jobs are your list of things that you've done. Workflows are all the things that you're going to do to assets that are listed, both from a source and an output perspective. A couple of quick things. Source files are always listed alphabetical. The output files are going to be listed by the date which they were done. And then if you've created a low bitrate proxy and you want to review your asset in the web browser with a frame accurate player, we've integrated with CodeMill. We've integrated CodeMill's accurate player, I should say. And basically, when you say create that low bitrate proxy, you're going to see a little play button right here. And here I'll press play just so you can see a little bit of it. We're going to see the video a little bit better in just a second. This is very steppy. It's playing in the browser. Pay no attention to the quality of that. But the important thing is that I can pause it and I can step forward or step backward as necessary, and it plays frame accurate. So in COVID, when you can't get into the facility to fire up that broadcast monitor and put that thing in there to make sure it plays back accurately, you've got that frame accurate playback system built into PixelStrings interface right there. When you recreate that asset, it's that little play button.
Ernie, I want to add one quick thing. Thing. The great thing that we love about CodeMill's player, accurate player, is you can run it in one-to-one mode. And so that even though it's coming from the cloud, each pixel you're looking at in one-to-one mode is a real pixel that's been made by our software.
Absolutely. Okay, so now the bulk of this is, of course, we're going to spend in the workflows when we're looking in the interface. Pretty much, there's some built-in workflows that start to start you off. This anything to 23976 Pro as HQ. Interpret anything as frame rate or scan type. Not any codec, not any container, because there's some containers and codecs that we don't support. But anything is referring to frame rate and scan type. And so basically these things will get you going. I can choose this, and now whatever I drop into it, irrespective of frame rate or scan type, it's going to become 25p. And let me actually probably choose a different one. Let me go ahead and choose an interlaced one. And the important thing about this, when I chose this interlaced workflow, is that if there's any filmic sections inside that 25i project, because it happens all the time, you're doing an interview with a director that's shot at 50 fields per second, but then they're going to cut to the movie that's shot at 25p, and they're going to intersperse the things, and that 25p became PSF, that type of thing. That filmic intent needs to be preserved when they're showing the clip from the movie. And that's exactly what these workflows do, is they're designed to completely preserve the original artistic intent and not to clobber it and make your beautiful filmic stuff look like it was a home movie or something. Okay, so the workflows are all listed here. And then these different things, think of them as apps. We have a video legalization app, Wormhole. We're going to go into a lot of depth in that one in a bit. Xenon, these are all the apps that you want to invoke. Output target, it's kind of your general thing. It's where you set your codec and your container and resolution and frame rate. Skywalker sound, I'm going to leapfrog this for now. So Tachyon, an app within PixelStrings, Tachyon is integrated into many enterprise-grade transcoders out there. It is the global standard for file-based standards conversion. It's used by everyone. Pretty much, it's motion compensated greatness. What you have live in PixelStrings is Tachyon 10. That's our latest version. That hasn't been released yet because there's still some things that we're working on with it. But I should say it's 9 plus. It's not quite 10, Tachyon version 10. It's 9 plus, I'll call it that. Dark Energy, it's all about removing noise and addressing image texture for either broadcast or filmic distribution. If you're going to be up-resing or down-resing any assets, you have to address the noise component. If you don't address the noise component, you're going to be making noise larger or bigger. And so Dark Energy has been used for well over a decade for getting rid of the noise while you're doing those up-resing. Very, very powerful tool. Dark Energy Xenon. This is kind of a when you remove the noise, you can do the up-res, down-res, but you can also do some great things like take that asset from standard dynamic range to high dynamic range. Now, this is a fully automated process. We're partnered with Technicolor on this. This uses Technicolor's AI-based SDK for up-converting every pixel from a standard dynamic range 100 nit up to HDR10 or HLG. Take your pick. How hard is it to do? You select one thing. It'll ask you, hey, make sure you want to turn the recommended settings on. That's the denoise technology of Dark Energy, and it automatically turns that on for you. And I'm done. This SDR to HDR10 is going to look beautiful. We've done some shootouts against some really solid colorists that are doing using a hands-on tool to do an SDR to HDR upconvert, and the Technicolor solution usually wins every time. It's amazing how accurate this thing is. It's one of those things you have to see it to believe it. There's a lot of advanced settings under the hood. I mean, you click this button, all of a sudden it's a whole bunch of interesting things. Bottom line is that just by having this auto mode on, it's going to do a lot to prevent bright spot blowouts. It's going to prevent diffuse white situations. It's just a great all-around tool. Video legalization, I touched on that earlier. That was the first thing I mentioned. If you need to do something going to DPP, EBR 103 and NTSC 7.5, very, very accurate for clipping the gamut to make sure it doesn't go out of spec. So if you have any gamut legalization needs to be done, you can easily turn this on. Now with the pricing with PixelStrings, there is an upcharge for Wormhole and there's an upcharge for Dark Energy Xenon. everything else that I mentioned is included whenever you run the job. So when you look at that rate card and it's $1.99 a minute, you can use everything at that $1.99 a minute, with the exception of the Wormhole and the Dark Energy Xenon, which have a small upcharge associated with them. I mentioned in part of the reason why, like in Wormhole, why we have that little upcharge is because we have incredible tools like Skywalker Sound. And Skywalker Sound is our go-to tool for everything audio. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and play a quick video, and then we'll ask Scott to join us here. But I'll show this video. This is Wormhole, and this you're going to see is an original video, is a commercial that's cut to 32 seconds. Well, most commercials need to be 30 seconds if they're going to be cut in that time frame, that range of time. But the story that's told at 32 seconds is the right story. The music starts right, and it's the right setup, and it's talking about, the music is all about, it's easy when you're doing it, when you know what you're doing, is what it basically boils down to. All the way to the very end, where you have the placard of the company, and then you have the little sounds, the special effects. All of that's 32 seconds. Where do you cut it? You can't cut it. Why? Because you have the music, you have everything involved. And that's where Wormhole shines, is taking an asset like that, where you don't want to go back to the cutting room floor because it told the story the way it needs to be told, and you need it to be the right time. Let me go and play these two assets here. This first one's going to be the original. And while it comes up here, I'll press.
It's so easy when you know what you're doing. It's so easy when you know how. It's so easy when you know what you're doing. It's so easy when you're doing it now.
Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the retimed asset that would be able to be played on air, because it is now 30 seconds instead of 32. Actually, it's almost 33 seconds. So we're taking quite a bit out of this. Go ahead and press play on this one.
It's so easy when you know what you're doing. It's so easy when you know how. It's so easy when you know what you're doing. It's so easy when you're doing it now.
Okay, a couple of things when we're playing back these videos. We're using GoToWebinar's playback system, so if it's not playing frame accurate, just know we will make these videos available for download, that you can take a look at them in a higher bit rate, but also you'll be able to play it back on your system, which will probably not have the steppiness. So, Scott, audio sounded great. Thanks for doing a great job with the sound tool.
Of course. Thanks, Ernie.
So one of the things that I wanted to kind of look at when we're doing a Wormhole job, we have a range that we can apply as far as speed up and slow down. We give people the ability, when you're dealing with audio, up to 50% speed up or slow down. That's a huge range, and not a range most people are going to do. And then we have a super slow-mo side of things, which drops the audio, of course, because you can't super slow-mo audio. But we certainly allow people to do 300, 400, 500% longer than the original asset, and we'll tease you in a little bit with a sample of our super slow-mo capabilities in Wormhole. But going back to the more broadcast world of things, why does it sound so good? Why can I take audio that is music, essentially, and why can I retime this and it sounds great? What's kind of the departure from the normal world of retiming that you guys took?
Yeah, Ernie, at Skywalker Sound, we've had lots of experience using and evaluating different tools, helping our sound designers and our sound editors retime content for our various projects. And what you learn after using so many tools in this space is a tricky question about pitch accuracy versus transient accuracy, while trying to maintain a pitch, not pitching up something when you change the time. And there's typically two approaches in signal processing for time stretching. One happens to work better for transients. That's called a pitch synchronized overlap add. And the other approach maintains pitch and harmonics more successfully, which is typically a phase vocoder. So these two different signal processing approaches can work well for their intended uses and can be perfectly fine when working on sub-elements of a track, like tonal music or spiky sound effects independently on their own. The problems come in, though, when you're working at the phase of the production pipeline where the entire soundtrack is already mixed together, but you still need to retime the content. So the retiming technology in the Skywalker sound tools in PixelStrings has its foundations in wavelet processing. This provides good frequency representation at the same time as pretty good accurate time response. And we adaptively tilt the bias between frequency and transients based on the signal coming in. So this allows for a tool set to produce a process track that has really good phase coherence, really tight transients, while maintaining excellent frequency resolution. It was important for us to integrate a high quality and high performing tool within PixelStrings so we could properly match the caliber of Cinnafilm's image processing so a user could get good sound and picture out of the same job, Ernie.
I will appreciate you doing that. Because I've heard customers say before that they can't retime something because it's music, right? And and I had a customer just this week. They said, well, that's a section we normally don't retime because it's the opening credits, it's music and everything, and it doesn't sound good. And it's like, wow, it was surprising to us because we've always kind of taken that standpoint of you got to retime everything you can. Don't just. And it was, but it's where the industry has been for many years, is not taking the care like you guys have to create that tool set that can address everything except for instead of just, well, it works because we made it work by dropping samples or dropping frames or something. So,
right.
Yeah, you provided some other solutions. I've got them queued up. The first one, I guess, it's just called Other Audio Solution. I guess maybe talk a little bit about that, about what we're going to hear with this first one.
Yeah, Ernie, this can be our as seen on TV style promo where we've got an example of the same spot retimed to the same runtime length, but with kind of more just traditional tools that exist in your NLE or in your digital audio workstation. So you can hear warbles, you can hear some jumps when it's doing the kind of pitch or the sync adds. And so you can just hear the lower quality that can come with some other tools when you don't have the adaptive switching between tonal frequency content and sharp transient content. Why do you play it, Ernie?
Yeah.
It's so easy when you know what you're doing. It's so easy when you know how. It's so easy when you know what you're doing. It's so easy when you're doing it now.
Well, the little sound effect at the end sounded great.
Yeah, but there's and there's it did, but at the expense of
everything else.
Well, noise and distortion coming in, and kind of unwanted sounds during the music. And so sometimes you have to choose, do I want to retime so a sound effect sounds good or music sounds good? And with our new solution, we believe that you don't necessarily need to make that choice. So I think Ernie, I don't know if I provided a sample of the PixelStrings retiming solution.
Yeah, you do. You have that, and I'll go ahead and play that alone. That way, you're not focusing on the picture and everything. You're just focusing on the sound. Absolutely. Let me go ahead and press play, and here we go.
It's so easy when you know what you're doing. It's so easy when you know how. It's so easy when you know what you're doing. It's so easy when you're doing it now.
There go. That sounded great. I wouldn't have,
much cleaner.
Unless I know that song by heart, I wouldn't have thought that was retimed or pitch corrected or anything.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, that's, I believe that the artistic intent we try to preserve as closely as possible to the original. Yes, we have to change the tempo because we're changing the runtime, but hopefully that's all we're changing in the entire track.
Yep. The other thing that I had mentioned is that we certainly stretch things, which isn't something that Retiming has done a whole lot of before in the past. But Wormhole has always been built with the ability to, we can shorten it by 20% or 10%, whatever percentage you need, but we can also lengthen it. And I'm glad that you guys also did the same thing. And so we've got I think you created a video with a lengthen as well, correct?
Yeah, and of course it's, the typical philosophy is it's hard to make something from nothing, but we believe that this tool helps you if you need to lengthen a spot or a scene. You can get by, and the audio sounds just as good as the original.
I'm going to play it.
It's so easy when you know what you're doing. It's so easy when you know how. It's so easy when you know what you're doing. It's so easy when you're doing it now.
It's kind of a dirge.
Everybody's going to be thinking about this tonight when they're going to sleep, I think. It's going to be their earworm. We're going to need to move on along the way here, guys. But Ernie, do you have a split screen to prove to everybody that, in fact, because the pitch correction is so good, unless people are running stopwatches, do you have that split screen?
Yes, I do. I'll be happy.
I just want to warn everybody. It's a little bit strange, but have a listen, and you'll see that something is actually happening. Yeah.
It's so easy when you know what you're doing. It's so easy when you know how. It's so easy when you know what you're doing. It's so easy when you're doing it now.
Yeah,
So
certainly get.
That's pretty weird. But it really shows that thing is a whole lot shorter, and it's still the same key. I love that.
Yeah, it's and like the swells in her voice as she goes higher. That artistic swell that she does is maintained, and that's what I love about the quality. So that's just great.
That's great. Thank you, guys. We're going to give this over to Fausto here, and don't have any questions coming in yet. I've got a few of my own, but I'll ask those at the end with the others. So we need to make Fausto the presenter.
Yep, he is.
And he's the presenter.
Yep, hang on. Show my screen there.
And Fausto, just curious, when you've looked at audio in the past, and because you've been doing the retiming so long, what were some of the things you guys did when you had a lot of music, and what were some of the things that you guys had to deal with?
The tool set for pitch correcting and time correcting has been around for quite some time. But the results have been very poor one way or another, as Scott had alluded to, the different technologies that have become available over time to be able to do that. But some of the things that happen, and you can see this or hear this with some of the material that's so far been presented, and as you listen to other things that are retimed, even if you can kind of look at things that actually are on the air that has been retimed using different products, what happens is you end up hearing ticks in the audio. you end up hearing audio that's not properly pitched correctly. You'll have things that somebody had just decided to time compress too long, or I mean too short, or go the other way too long, and without the proper pitch correction or resampling of the audio, what happens is you get these artifacts in there, and you end up with cadence issues in the music. Some of the technologies that have been out there have gotten around to just basically dropping frames, and they pull up, they drop video frames, but what they'll do is they'll pull up the sound, and they do these little micro dissolves. So that creates all kinds of havoc in the retiming. So I'm glad we're past all of that these days with this Wormhole product. It's great.
Awesome.
I'm excited, Ernie and Scott, to see the new additions and the continued development of Wormhole, especially within the PixelStrings environment in the cloud and on-prem. It's exciting to see the continued development, just because when you settle in and you think that there's no more something new, there is always something new and better. So I certainly appreciate that. Certainly, before I get started here, just a little bit about myself and what we do here at Performance Post. As Curtis reminded me here at the beginning of the webinar, I realized that back in January here, we're 40 years in business, and this is pretty amazing to us, especially being in such a crazy and fast-moving industry. I feel that like some people of my age, we're survivors, right? So it's an interesting thing. But over the years, primarily what we have done here is we have focused on editing content, both creative and finished work. And that's something that has been really, really key to what we do. And for some of you guys that are joining us today, maybe some of you come from post houses, or you come from TV networks or distribution areas within your studios themselves. And maybe you're here because you've done some of this retiming before, either yourselves or your facilities, or have ordered things to be retimed, or maybe you're just you're curious about this retiming thing. So as I said, editing has been our core business, and as an editor and part of a creative team with my clients, we're always looking to get the best results for them, and that means that we're always looking to try to find the best tools to work with. So, what is this thing that's retiming? Well, I mean, retiming basically is editing, right? We're sort of wanting to fit the content to fit a certain time frame, and we're looking for the best way to present the creative intent, and ultimately to do justice with what our clients have entrusted us to do with. And this could be, because we have to meet a requirement to fit a certain time frame overall, or we need to do something segment by segment, to fit a certain commercial requirement, or like in a case of one of the networks recently, we had to retime some content for them because they had to fit some political spots in there. So, and that was all last minute stuff that was ordered up and came about. So, but something today that I really want to leave with everyone who's joining us today is retiming, no matter what tools you use, should always be thought of as a creative tool and not really used as a hammer. Wormhole in the hands of a creative editor, a technician, you're going to get incredible results, which is going to just blow everybody's mind away. It'll be really, really cool what you end up with. Our choices, they start out with the edit, right? When we started with retiming, we can remove or we can add picture, right? And of course, this can take some time, right? So sometimes we might not have additional picture to add in there, or we just exhausted the very last frame of the scenes that we're trying to extend, or the other way around. When we shorten things, we're like, oof, this is not going to work. I'm cutting things off. The same thing with sound, right? We can remove sound, we can add sound. And this can become a real challenge for us in the editing part, because think of things that you have to edit with dialogue. Sometimes a line might be too long, but you need to fit it in there creatively, or it was already in a feature or a program content that was already there, and you don't have any real license to take it out, right? The director, the producer, they want their content. So, we have not a whole lot of choices with that. So it becomes a problem. Music is the same issue. You try to edit this music and shorten the music, people are going to be listening to their favorite songs. It doesn't take the musicians themselves to pick out that you've edited or butchered up their music, right? And that happens, and you can hear a lot of that out there on some of this content that's been repurposed in various different ways, and so that becomes a little bit of a problem. So retiming is basically a way of stretching the content. We can shorten, we can lengthen it. And ultimately, what we want to be able to do with all of this is end up with good picture, and we want audio that's been pitch corrected, and also that is basically artifact free. And that's a big wish list, right, Ernie? Scott?
Slightly.
Yeah.
Slightly.
Yeah. So so retiming historically has been with us for a long time. In the early days, this was done really tape to tape. And there used to be a device back in those early days when it first started out, and some of the studios were using this when they would ship out a long form content, and it would go out to a dub house, and the dub houses would have this box from Lexicon that would basically control 2 tape decks, and it would vary speed one deck, and make an image recording on the other side with the sound. And there was a sort of a primitive audio pitch correction that went in there, but this was really limited to the quality of the machines, of what they could really do, both with correcting artifacts in the picture on the fly, and with the sound. Like I said, it was very primitive in the pitch correction, and really at the end of the day, this was a one-shot deal. You programmed it for the overall time that you wanted, and it would come close to what you wanted. You really couldn't do what we do today, which is the need is for segment by segment retiming. So, as an editing shop, we've always been looking for great tools and creative ways of being able to accomplish like I said, the best results. And so we've looked at a lot of different things. We did the tape to tape thing, and it was a huge thing. A short story about that is, I ended up doing a feature, The Matrix, for one of the studios, and it was literally the last tape-to-tape job that I ended up doing. And we would pitch correct with an outside box that would do the audio pitch correction, which was pretty decent what it was doing. But the picture was the thing that created an issue. So we ended up having to go back in and replace scenes in the movie, and we would literally go scene by scene in this entire feature to do this, and it was a process that took about 6 days to accomplish. And Ernie, the film editor that I was working with, I think I destroyed this poor guy, because he was literally going home. He was literally going home every night and looking over a section of 10 or 15 minutes looking for artifacts, visual artifacts, sound artifacts, and they would come back the next day, and we'd have to go back in and address that. And so by the time we were done, believe it or not, I'd have it was close, just under 4,000 edits that I had in that feature. And of course, if you're a studio, if you're a network, even if you're a post house, you can't afford to do this that way anymore, right? So that's a big problem.
You must have got paid a lot of money to do that one.
Well, I don't even remember.
Standard rate card.
Fausto was a flat rate.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, we're just gluttons for punishment back then, So, but we've learned a lot from there, and certainly the tools have changed quite a bit since then. And we did the hardware box thing that some people are still using out there, and the problem with all of that is you end up with a lot of drop frames and artifacts and sound issues, and so we kind of dropped that, even though we did do a lot of that until we came across this little company named Cinnafilm. And I was trying to recall yesterday as I was talking to the team, I thought it was like 10 years, but Ernie reminded me. How long was it, Ernie?
Oh, geez, 13 years. Starting 13 years.
13 years ago, yeah. So so we've been on the Cinnafilm platform for 13 years and have evolved quite a bit with it. And we use it for a lot of different content. So, what can you use this for? What is it appropriate for? Well, short form, I think it's appropriate for short form. Some of the things that we've done with it is certainly TV commercials. As I said, the example you just saw, the 32 seconds fitting into 30, that happens all the time. You end up with advertisers that want to fit certain shots in there, and so it's a fight going back and forth with the agencies trying to fit everything in there and getting the budgets to re-edit. So that's a bit of a problem. Network promos, I ended up having to deal with that, as I said recently, with the election and the election campaign spots and the promos that the networks had to do because they were shifting their programming at the last minute. And something that hasn't been talked about today is content shots. And we do this a lot today, right? You'll see this in documentaries. You'll see this in a lot of different programs where a shot is sped up or slowed down to kind of continue to tell the story and lead you into something. We accomplish this as editors today. A lot of us do it with our nonlinear edit system. So, we do it with whatever our favorite system is today. We tend to use their optical flow stuff, and we speed stuff up and slow stuff down, and with mixed results. At the end of the day, a lot of people just say, well, I got what the intent was, just to speed it up or slow it down to passage of time or to get past that, right? But, one of the things that Wormhole can do is it can precisely do super slow-mo besides speeding things up. It can really, really work on that. So that's something for, if you've never considered that in your creative team, it's something to consider, right? How about long form? Long form, we've done this for sitcoms. Sitcoms is kind of tricky because there's a pacing. There's a pacing with dialogue, and you have to be concerned with that. And that's something that is important, especially if you're trying to retime with devices that drop frames and stuff. And all of a sudden you're losing ends of words. And if you've got people who have been to Starbucks a little too often, it becomes a little bit of a problem. Yeah. Dramas, movies, any kind of long form things, those are great. One of the things that is important for all of this in the retiming is that with the Wormhole, it really is the really first tool that we've ever used that can allow us to not only make frame accurate retimes, but it's consistent and it's repeatable. And what that means for an editor, if you have to go back in and replace content, replace shots for certain reasons, if there's been an update by the studio, it's something that we need to really understand that you can do that. Some of these other devices and programs that's out there, software, you can't do it. It's one-shot deal. You get it done, and every time you run it, you get different results. Sports? How about sports?
Our software is incredibly deterministic. That's one of the things. It's repeatable results every time. There is no variance. The algorithms do what they do, and based on the analysis, based on the data, and it doesn't change. You can run it one time or a million times. It's going to be the same thing every single time.
Exactly. Good for sports. You can do this for sports also, especially if it's a local and you want to, it's a resell in a different marketplace and you got to fit it, in there. You can certainly do that. Some of you are asking or maybe thinking about what kind of frame rates can I do with this? You can certainly do it in the gamut of all these frame rates that I've displayed up there and then some. Some of them require a little special hand holding, especially in the low frame rate stuff, to do that stuff. But we've had very, very consistent results with this, especially also in the different resolutions. We've had the ability to deal with standard SD all the way up to 4K. And I expect our Cinnafilm team to be able to go beyond all of this stuff, right? Something that's important in all of this workflow is the Wormhole product also takes care of your captions. So, the plus is great picture, great sound, and also I can retime my captions. I know that they're working in the different frame rates because there's some challenges in different frame rates for the captions, but I know they're constantly working on that. But the majority of the main frame rates that all of us use, it's solid and that works. And so that we're grateful for that. who have we done this with? Well, I can't show you enough networks up there that we've delivered this to. I mean, we've done literally tens of thousands of retimes, and we've delivered to probably everybody on the planet in one form or another. Just a quick little story, because I want to show you guys a couple of little videos, and then I'll wrap it up. But we did a few years back, we were approached by a production company for a pilot that was on CBS. It was Madam Secretary, and it had gotten picked up by the network, and it was too long, and they wanted to retime this. And so we had the director, the producer, and the writer. They came in and they asked us to retime it. So we retimed it, and they warned us, a lot of people are going to be looking at this. We don't know if this is going to pay off or work or not. But we're willing to try it. So we ended up doing it. They came in, they reviewed it, they huddled with themselves, then they called us back together and they approved it. And then they said, now the acid test, it's got to go back to the studio. The audio team has to look at this, the mixers, the different technicians have to look at this, and the executives. So there's going to be a lot of scrutiny on this. So a week later, we get the call, they approved it. And so the last test to pass this, it had to go to an independent QC facility. And it was cool because they sent it to them sight unseen, no slate that said, retimed or wormholed or anything. It just went straight out to them. Within a day, we got the notice back that it had passed with flying colors. So thank goodness to you, the Cinnafilm team, and to my team and everybody involved to be able to get that. So that worked out really, really, really good. So
essentially to them, they just thought it was a QC this asset. It wasn't you're looking for telltale signs of retiming. It is just tell us if there's any issues with this asset.
Exactly.
And it passed as an original, even though it was retimed. Exactly.
And it was something that they were going to repurpose for international. So it was low frame rate material. And so, it was a lot of eyes on it,
That's great.
Yeah. Ernie, I want to pass this on to you. I want to see if you can actually put up a spot here. I'm going to share another spot that I want you guys to take a look at first here.
Sure. I'll be happy to. Okay, I guess I have the source here, Fausto. That should be queued up.
Are you ready? Set, go!
Okay, so that was the source, correct?
Yeah, that was the source. So why don't you see if you can play the Wormhole version of that for us?
Okay. And this is going to be cut down to what? That one was 32 seconds. This is cut down to 30 as well?
30, yeah. So it's about 6% reduction, yeah.
Okay, here we go. I chose the wrong one. There we go. Click the wrong one.
Are you ready? Set, go!
Okay.
Yeah, if you could play just the last one for me. This last one was retimed in a third-party tool, so you guys can take a look at this one.
Okay, so this is kind of like you just saw Wormhole, and now you're seeing the other guy, whoever the other guy is.
Exactly. I'm not gonna...
Are you ready? Set, go!
Well, you
Well,
can really tell the
back in the day, back in the day, I was working in recording studios. We would have had a serious look at that tape machine.
Yeah, exactly. Ernie, if you can
that's strange.
yeah, if you can give me the screen back, Ernie, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll be more than happy to.
Yeah. So, let's see here. I think I have to do this. Hang on one second here. There's no free lunches, right? Let me
No, certainly not.
let me see if I can. I think my screen just here we go. There we go. You guys can see this now. No free lunches, right? So we heard the sound speeding up and slowing down, and that's a result. And by the way, I will share this with you. This is with a software application that is very popular that some networks are using, and that's the kind of audio that you get because it's dropping frames, picture frames, and it might be okay for picture in play until you look a little closer, and I'll show you what some of those artifacts look like. But the sound is horrible, and I can't imagine a creative, a producer, a director, or a musicians who involved with this great content that they give us all to watch, being happy with that, right? So picture-wise, what kind of artifacts can you get? I'll tell you with Wormhole. With Wormhole, we literally are making what we at our company are bringing to our clients as what we call master grade retiming. And it goes through QC with a lot of different people. But some of the things that we historically had seen with different things were, I'm going to show you a couple of samples here. Like this was done with this video. And if you guys look very carefully, you can see the leg up there. You'll see the kind of like the double superimposed image. This is where they're blending. They've dropped frames and they're blending in between those frames. You see another example here of this poor guy's hand. And look at his face. Look at what goes on with that, right? Yeah. And by the way, this happens with one of the hardware products that has kind of been around for a long time, trying to do retiming in low frame rate stuff. They can pass the picture, but technically they can pass the low frame rate stuff in their 1080p. But this is the results of it, and so definitely not something that would pass QC.
Fausto, when you say low frame rate, do you mean 24?
Yeah, 24 frame, yeah. And look at this guy's arm here. It's sort of like I was trying to think, Ernie, was this a scene like out of Poltergeist or
there was a scene in Total Recall where the guy is admitting that he's a I guess what do they call him?
Terminator.
A mutant, and he pulls an arm out that kind of looks like that.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of. Yeah. So you have to worry about those things. Take a look at this scene here, really quick. There's only have a couple more frames to show you here, but you start to see this solarization effect, right? You start to see that around this stuff, and this happens because they're mishandling the actual video content itself, the light to dark contrast rates and stuff. This is really going to come into a head with people starting to use more HDR type content in the future. A lot of these applications really fall apart. Look at this guy's volleyball. That's kind of cool. I don't think that's what he's looking. He's probably looking at that saying, "Huh? What's that? It's not my volleyball." Right? Yeah. And look at this one. I couldn't believe it. When I saw this, I said, I don't think that if a creative type had asked me to produce this effect for him, I would be struggling how to do it. But now I know how to do it. I can use one of these other retime applications and come up with this. And here's kind of my last picture shot that I have here. This one, you can see the solarization in the sky itself.
Oh, yeah.
And why is all of this important for you? This is important because for us, we've been retiming assets, and our clients are asking us to retime things that basically not only pass their initial QC, but they're going to retransmit this. They're going to recompress this, on a network. And so they're going to do their HVC compressors or their MPEG-2 compressors or whatever it is that they're putting on the air for satellite and different streaming models. And if you have this kind of stuff going in, it's going to get worse coming out on the other end. And so I wanted to share with you today some of this kind of stuff and the reason why we use the Wormhole product and why we've been successful with it, and encourage you guys to take a deeper dive look at this. Hopefully some of this has been useful for you guys today.
Fausto, thank you so much. A quick note to our attendees, we're coming up to the hour. We're happy to go over the hour if we have questions that take us over the hour. I have one quick note. When you check out of this webinar, whether you do it now or at the end of the Q&A, you're going to see a survey to fill out. We'd appreciate it if you would do that. And for those of you who have accounts or those of you who are going to sign up for a subscription, you'll get $25 into your account in return for answering those questions for us. We really appreciate it. Ernie, can you humor me? Do you have that football slow-mo to show to folks?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's a good little clip. And then we should jump into Q&A because we're 1 minute to the hour right now.
Gotcha. So the first file that I have here, this is just your standard, again. This is the actual scene.
That's recorded from a broadcast. Okay.
Yep. And then what I'll do is let me go ahead and grab this, slow down 3x. So basically it's 200% longer. And I'll play that, and so you can see the quality of this retime.
So I just ask everybody we've got some cable head end compression artifacts, but just look at the motion of the runner, the legs, arms, everything that's happening. There's a lot of manufactured frames and pixels there that were never captured by the camera on the day.
And this is at 5994p. So that's a lot of frames that we're generating, taking that asset from 5994 to basically 180, and then repackage it down at 59. So lots of interpolation, lots of motion comp going on right there. But again, that's so when we say we got to stretch your asset by 6% or 8%, not a problem, because we can take sources and go super slow-mo. I guess we probably have some questions. I wanted to
just anybody has any questions, now's the time. You can always follow up with us by email. You'll all be receiving a link to downloads in the next few days, so watch for that, and you can ask questions at that time as well if you don't submit a question now. We got one here for Fausto, and another one here for Scott as well. Fausto, so when you're hired to change program runtimes, how much, on average, how much of that job is editing, and how much is Wormhole? Would you say approximately?
Well, it depends on where we start in the cycle. We've had both, where we had to start from scratch and then end up with certain length of content. Like my example for the CBS job that we did with Madam Secretary, we ended up creatively where we did what they wanted us to do, and then we had to then package it and bring it down. So once we got it down to retiming, we had to retime the entire asset in that particular case. Now the one thing to note with Wormhole is that you can do just pieces of something if you want to do that, but we do a tremendous amount of retiming, and it's part of a tool set that we provide for our clients. Again, not a hammer, but a tool set, right? A tool set, and so we use it quite a bit. Yeah.
Thank you. Question for Scott. Scott, does the software automatically correct for loudness levels after resampling when you're going through this process?
Yeah, it's a great question. Users have the ability to either correct the loudness of their track to whatever target you define, and that'll be intelligently placed after the retime process is done, so you're not creating any new peaks that won't pass your QC, or we can make sure to correct your audio so it's the same levels coming in as going out.
Right. This is not a question that came today. It was a question we've gotten in the past. What about crosstalk, introduction of crosstalk after retime?
Yeah, that's known to be an issue with certain processors, and we've worked to make sure that there's no crosstalk introduced in the retimer in the Skywalker sound tools and PixelStrings. It's also important to know we didn't, I don't think we mentioned it, but we can retime sound field groups right now up to 7.1. So if your job has multiple groups, a 5.1 and a stereo and a 7.1, they'll be phase accurately retimed in those native groups.
Yeah, that's a really important note, and could be a seminar or webinar unto itself. The fact that you can remap and do loudness control and so on in templates and workflow, programmed workflows, saved workflows for your retimings. Here's a question. Thanks, Scott. Here's a question for Ernie. Can Wormhole be used to do frame rate conversions? Can it be used in a frame rate conversion setting, PAL to NTSC?
So basically, so taking like a 25p and slowing it down to play as a 23, or taking a 23 and speeding it up to play as a 25 without generating new frames. Absolutely. That feature is not in the user interface right now. It's going to be there very shortly, but you can certainly take a Filmic 23 or a Filmic 25 and use speed change to make that conversion. Can't do that with 59.94 going to 50 because the percentage is just too great to use speed changes. But going from 23.976 or 24.0 to 25, or taking 23.98 and going to 25i using PSF, absolutely all day, every day, because the Skywalker sound is going to pitch correct, as well as make sure that the audio stays in sync with the speed up of the frames. Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. Carrying on, the use of this, some people, of course, they have a couple hundred clips maybe for a documentary. Others have one or two programs they need to retime, and then other people may have hundreds and hundreds. And maybe the on-prem version of PixelStrings is a better choice for them in the long run. Ernie, can you talk about what people saw today with regard to what's available in the cloud and what's available on-prem, please?
Sure. So on-prem and cloud are pretty much identical. We designed PixelStrings to be the same interface, whether you're using it in on-prem or using it in the cloud. There are some things that are slightly different because it's very hard to have watch folders in the cloud, but you can have them on-prem. And then, so there's some slight differences, but the general functionality is identical. On-prem, you have to pay for each individual app that you're adding, if you're adding Tachyon, Dark Energy, or Xenon, or Wormhole. Those are all options, whereas in the cloud, it's all included in your price per minute, with the exception of the options that I talked about earlier in the broadcast. But for the most part, yeah, functionality is going to be the same. The templates I create in the cloud can be downloaded and installed on-prem, vice versa. Same thing with workflows. It's designed to be very fluid to meet your workflow demands, whether you're doing a lot more in the cloud or doing a lot more on-prem, same thing.
Okay. Okay, we're going to wrap it up with one last question. This one is going to go to the godfather of retiming, Fausto Sanchez. Because I can't imagine based on what you're telling us, Fausto, I can't imagine there's anybody on the planet that's been associated with more retiming than you. Let me just summarize this here. So you probably looked at every tool there is to retime with, and how many do you use today? How many different, aside from editing, how many different methodologies do you currently use to retime?
We use one, and it's in a word, one.
Okay.
Yeah. I have a great team here, and it's not just me. I'm involved with the editorial and with the retiming, but I have a great team that has also embraced the product for years now, and I couldn't do anything without them. And great set of eyes, great set of minds, together with this awesome tool. And this is a very important tool in our toolbox. And so this is the tool that we use for retiming. This is what we recommend to our clients. And the proof is in the pudding. We always like to give a sample to our clients to take a look. and let them decide, and I don't want to sell them anything that they're not going to like. And so that speaks a lot for the product itself.
And a personal question, I assume you're always looking at what's available, like everything that comes along you have a look at?
We are constantly shopping for our clients. I think it's always, we're a like I said, a little boutique shop, and we've been here for 40 years. And I think part of the reason for success is that we're always have the best in mind for our clients and for the people that work here, our team. But we're, a part of that is the responsibility to be educated and to take a look at everything that's available out there. So, yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. Well, let's wrap it up. Ernie, do you have any last words as we head out?
The last word that I've got is that keep in mind with PixelStrings, as with all of our technologies, as you build your workflows and you set a Skywalker sound option where you're going to be doing the audio channel remapping, you're going to do audio loudness correction, and you set tachyons, you're going to do a standards conversion or up-res, and you're going to do a denoise, and you're also going to do a up-convert from SDR to HDR, all also with the Wormhole retime. As you stack these features into your workflow, it's a single render. You're not looking to have to do things and wait for it to get through with step A before it'll do step B and then step C and step C. It's all designed to render at a single time. And for HD, with the exception of Xenon, that's a little bit slower, but for HD, if you stack Tachyon, Skywalker, Dark Energy, and Wormhole, that is going to be real time or faster. And that's the beautiful thing about leveraging things like GPU processing, is that all this happens real time or faster for HD resolutions. And so as you build your workflows, understand you're getting the best practice of when you're going to be doing things in the render pipeline. And that's done automatically. You don't have to think about it. That's the beauty of the PixelStrings platform, is get it all done in a single render so you can move on and get more work done.
That's great. Thank you. Well, on behalf of Ernie and the whole team at Cinnafilm, I'm Curtis Staples, and I want to thank you for joining us on this particular webinar Wednesday. We hope that you'll join us next month when we do this again for something hopefully equally as interesting and I'll say earth-shattering. Maybe that's a little too much, but I carry